It is mid to late March here in the Phoenix area, and right now my ladybanks roses are blooming, so I did want to show you them and how they look. So the ladybanks rose blooms once a year here in springtime, so it will bloom all over and then it will be done for the rest of the year. It is evergreen though, so it does stay, the leaves do stay on, and it does stay green all year. However, it only blooms this one time of year, and it does look very, very nice. So let me show you that, and I will show you a couple of other things that are blooming around in the yard. I'll take you on a little tour. Okay, so here's my ladybanks. This one does the best right here. So this one gets afternoon shade from the tree next to it, and I think that that's the best for these ladybanks. I have some that get full sun and they don't love the full sun. I also have some that get quite a lot of shade. They also don't like quite a lot of shade. So I think you're going to have to have the Goldilocks zone for these to perform their best. So these roses have been blooming for a little bit. They look good. This one is a baby, the one on the right is a baby paradise sunblaze rose, and this one's the distant drums. These were some of the first roses that are blooming. The rest of them aren't blooming yet. And here is a closer view of how the ladybanks blooms look. They like to bloom in these clusters. The blooms themselves are very small. They're little teeny, but they bloom in very big clusters like this. These are what the little buds look like. So these start coming on, January, February. So I don't prune anything. I don't prune this back at that time so that they will put their buds on and bloom fully for March. I've had this for maybe like 4 years. I think it probably took like 3 years. Maybe I've had this for 5 years. It probably took like 3 years to cover this wall, and now I just have to keep up trimming it. Okay, over here I've got another ladybanks, and I think you can tell here that this one gets a lot of shade from this tree. So the ones that are in the sun more, you can see are blooming more than the part that's in the shade. There's almost no blooms in the shade over here. And over here, these African daisies, they have been blooming for quite some time, probably since like January, yeah. They've been, again, like I said, they've been blooming for quite some time, so they don't look their best. I can put in some film of when they were looking really nice and sharp. The African California poppies here are just starting to bloom. So these should be taking off soon. And then I also had these Snapdragons. I did these from seed last year to see what would happen, and they did. They grew up last year and they just look like a big weed all year, but they did bloom. So it's good. This rose I planted on camera. This was the bare root rose that I planted, and it is starting to bloom. You can see this guy kind of got some bugs, so the foliage isn't perfect. But I think I got to it early enough so that they didn't really affect the blooms, the flowers. So here's one. Here's another one. And then over here I have more of my ladybanks, and then you can see these in the shade, they just don't do as well. But then on the other side of the coin, this one in the full sun, this one also doesn't like to bloom so much. Fair enough. This one, if you saw how my ladybanks, I have a video of how my ladybanks did in 120-degree weather, and a monsoon wind had just come by and blown these all over, and I had to go through and fix them. And this one had broken the trellis that it was on, and I just ended up taking that trellis out and cutting it back, so it didn't bloom. It's not blooming this year. I did do quite a hard cut back on it. And then its new neighbor, I just bought this, or I planted this fig tree last year, so he's putting on his leaves, doing well. And his other new neighbor is the guava tree. I just planted him over the winter. Hopefully he likes this spot and does well. We'll see. So over here is the rose garden, and like I said, it's not blooming yet, but most of these have a bunch of buds on. They're about ready. Like this guy, he's got a ton of blooms. This is my ketchup and mustard, so he'll look good when he starts blooming here. But over here is this wisteria, which I planted last year. I'd never done wisteria before, so it lived. This guy lived, and it's blooming, and it looks pretty good. It smells really nice, so I'm pretty happy with the wisteria. So that's what I've got blooming right now, and like I said, these roses, this will be full of blooms in the not too distant future. So once this blooms, I will do a video going through and showing you my roses.